All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I give all the praises, honor, and glory unto the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Ruach HaKadosh. I'd like to say double honors and respect to our apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule well and taught us this truth. I would also like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, the hopeful elect in the one third, and you Israelite foreigners, you speckled birds scattered across the four corners of the earth that look like the heathen, but your seed line goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose salvation is only opened up unto to you. I say shalom. This is your brother Salah. All right, and this is a World War III update, and I'm also gonna land back off the the elder brother from stay in the spirit 144. I'm only gonna play the first clip, and then we're gonna play some other videos. Updates on World War III, happening around the world, and these are the times that we are approaching, man. Jacob trouble, man. It's not just gonna be conducive to Babylon the Great, man. It's gonna be all out hell, everywhere, man. Man, not just the ice raids and the National Guards being sent everywhere, man. All hell's about to break loose worldwide, man. So so before we start off, playing these videos, I'm only gonna play like a few minutes from each videos, or I might play the full video depending on how short the video is. But before we play the video, I'm gonna open up with the book of Revelation, chapter 11, and we're gonna start at verse 14. All right, it says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, man." So that's talking about World War III, and we are in the midst, man, the precipice, of World War III. That's about to come, despite what DJT 47, Caesar Nero saying that there's gonna be no third world war. He knows the third world is coming. He's just trying to put you Babylonians or you Americans back to sleep, man. But we know for those of us that are in the know, man, we can see through Esau's lies, man. And ultimately, man, these other nations, man, they gonna go into captivity once Yahushua returns, man. That's these elites' greatest fear is Israel coming back into rulership, right? But that's not before they roll out with the MOTB, man, and then the nukes are gonna come. So, continuing on, and the seventh angel sounded, and there was a great voice in heaven saying, "The kingdoms of the world are become the kingdoms of our Lord, and is Hamashiach, and shall reign forever and ever." And the 24 elders which sat before or Yahweh on their seats fell on their faces and worshipped Yahweh, saying, "We give thanks, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Almighty, which art and was and art to come, because thou hast taken to thee thy great power and hast reigned. And the nations were angry, and thy wrath is come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that thou shouldest give reward unto thy servants the prophets, and to the saints, and to them that fear thy name, small and great, and shouldest destroy them which destroyeth the earth." And that's you fucking Edomites, man. You Edomites and the rest of you heathens, man. You motherfuckers, man. Mainly you Edomites, man. Y'all motherfuckers about to get destroyed real soon, man. Once your house returns, man. And the temple of Yahweh was opened in heaven, and there was seen in his temple the ark of his testament, and there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and earthquakes and great hail, and that's what you've been seeing around the world, man. You see tensions rising up, and it's gonna get to a boiling point. Where you're just gonna see war breaking loose, man. The war in Ukraine, man. That's not gonna end. They that so-called peace and safety, and we already know what scripture it comes to mind when they say peace and safety, man. They immediately went straight back into war, man. Iran and in the 49ers, man. Man, so you best believe, man. Global tension is rising. That's what we're about to to see right now. So before we play any of these videos, right, we are going to get the copyright disclaimer. Let's see, health research. Here it is, research tools. All right, disclaimer, copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. All right, so we already declared the copyright statute. We're not making any money off of this, and we're not going to present you any medical information. So lucky about that. Fucking ads, man. And so with that, we're gonna play the first video from the elder.
And the next fight is coming. Trust me, it's coming. Across battlefields, our character has never wavered. Just as the nature of war, the clash of wills, the test of fortitude, the demand for discipline remains the same. You do not want to be on the receiving end of that bunch of ass whooping. You do not. If you're an adversary, hoorah. If you're an adversary and you want to have your butt kicked, then mess with the Marine Corps, because we'll do it. We'll do it for you. When the next fight comes, and sadly it will come, Marines will be ready. Ready to fight, ready to win, because that is who we are. That is what we do. It is all that we do. We're warriors. That's all that we do. We are America's crisis response force. We're the 911 force. We're the people who go out the door at 0:30 to get our mission done, to accomplish it on behalf of the American people, to stick a bayonet in the heart of our adversaries, just like we did at Belleau Wood, just like we did at Bladensburg and Chapultepec and Iwo Jima and Eniwetok and Kwajalein and Quezon and Ramadi and Fallujah. That is who we are as a corps. Never forget that.
French hospitals have been told to prepare for war in Europe by next year. A letter sent by the Health Ministry in July told hospitals to be ready for a potential major military deployment. That's prepping to treat wounded French and foreign soldiers and care for up to 15,000 people for half a year. It sounds scary, but the Health Minister said it is perfectly normal for the country to anticipate crises and their consequences. This is part of anticipation, just like strategic stockpiling.
Hey, shalom, shalom. First and
All right. Now for the next clip.
If you want to have war, you will get war. If you want to destroy China, you will be destroyed. If you want to impose nuclear war on China, you will be wiped out by nuclear war. This is very serious. China's policy is very clear. China will not fire the first shot, but China will not allow you to fire the second shot. If you have not watched the Victory Day parade in Beijing on September the 3rd, one of the weapons China demonstrated is a missile with all the warheads. We call it 61 because it can contain 60 nuclear warheads plus one hydrogen bomb. Now, in the world of today, let me tell you, which country has hydrogen bomb? China is the only country with hydrogen bomb. And that ICBM can cover every corner of the world in less than 20 minutes and destroy any target in any corner of the world without any possibility of being intercepted. I hope Washington has learned the lesson.
A Russian colonel has issued a terrifying World War III nuclear threat to Britain and the US. Russia has warned that any US move greenlit by Donald Trump to supply long-range Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine could trigger a Kremlin declaration of nuclear war against both the United States and Britain. New intelligence shows that the US are preparing to bolster Kyiv with enhanced targeting data for strikes on Russia's energy networks, while pressing NATO allies to follow suit. But Colonel Igor Korotchenko has said that supplying Tomahawk missiles is a move that will trigger World War III. A Russian colonel has issued a terrifying World War III nuclear threat to Britain.
Yeah, so you see the video right here. South China Sea War. Chinese fighter jet fire Australian patrol plane amid Trump Albany's meet. All right, you brothers can watch the video right there. You see the YouTube channel. All right, so we're gonna play the next video. All right, this is 8 minutes, but we're gonna speed this up to let's do 1.5. Yeah, it should be fast enough. So.
In recent days, the situation around China and Japan has begun to change rapidly, turning from a local diplomatic dispute into something much more serious, what many in both the Pentagon and Beijing are already calling the gray zone of a new Cold War. It all started with what seemed like a routine episode when several Chinese surface warships passed between the Okinawa and Miyako Islands, demonstratively crossed Japan's exclusive economic zone, and headed toward the Pacific Ocean. According to Kyoto News, the Japanese Coast Guard recorded not just the presence of these vessels, but the execution of maneuvers close to combat operations. Sources in Japan's Ministry of Defense reported that the Chinese ships were accompanied by the reconnaissance vessel Xiangyang Hong 22, which, according to radio intercepts, was conducting underwater scans of communication lines. It all appeared to be a carefully planned operation to test Japan's surveillance systems and response readiness. In response, fighter jets were scrambled from Naha Air Base, and 2 SH-60K anti-submarine helicopters were urgently deployed to the southwest of the country. The situation has gone beyond routine patrol confrontations. According to the Japan Times, this marks the 331st consecutive day that armed vessels of China's Coast Guard have entered waters claimed by Japan. Analysts from Tokyo's Center for Strategic Studies call this an endless display of pressure. China, they say, acts systematically, not officially invading, but maintaining constant presence, forcing Japan to remain on edge and increase defense spending. Against this backdrop, joint exercises of Chinese amphibious groups in the South China Sea have intensified sharply, leading many to speak of preparations for possible maritime blockades, including near Japanese islands. In Tokyo, all this coincided with an important political development, the rise to power of Sanae Takaichi, Japan's first female prime minister, known for her strongly nationalist rhetoric. Her figure has divided Japanese society. Part of the elite expected her to take a hard anti-Chinese stance, yet Takaichi surprised everyone. Contrary to skepticism, she supported Beijing in its dispute with the United States over Donald Trump's newly imposed tariffs. At an economic forum in Osaka, Takaichi stated that tariffs should not be instruments of blackmail between great powers, and urged Trump to lift tariff pressure for the sake of global market stability. Her words quickly spread across Western media, from Bloomberg to The Guardian, where they were described as a historic example of Japanese pragmatism. But behind that pragmatism lay cold calculation, an attempt to restrain China from further escalation in the waters of the East China Sea. However, events took a different turn. Just a few days after her statement, Chinese research vessels reappeared in Japan's exclusive zone near Tokunoshima Island. According to Nippon News Network, one of the ships lowered a long metal probe into the water, presumably hydroacoustic reconnaissance equipment. The Japanese Coast Guard filed an official protest, but Beijing responded that it was acting within the framework of international maritime law. Behind the scenes, Japan's cabinet held emergency meetings with U.S. military advisors. A source cited by Asahi Shimbun claims that Washington viewed China's actions as a deliberate provocation and warned allies of the possibility of maritime clashes. Against this backdrop, Takaichi's rhetoric shifted dramatically. If just a week earlier she spoke of a balanced policy between China and the United States, she now declares the need to strengthen Japan's defense alliance with America. Internal sources cited by Nikkei Asia claim she is under strong pressure from the Ministry of Defense and intelligence agencies, which warn that China may use Japan's economic proximity as a lever of political coercion. Moreover, reports have surfaced behind the scenes that Donald Trump has already instructed the Pentagon to consider redeploying additional naval forces to the Japanese coast. The plan involves a multi-role strike group led by the aircraft carrier USS Ronald Reagan, which may be temporarily returned from the Indian Ocean to the Okinawa region. Insiders at Foreign Policy report that the White House views this move as a demonstration of determination to defend an ally and as a signal to Beijing of readiness for countermeasures. However, according to experts from the Rand Corporation think tank, such a redeployment could only worsen tensions. China perceives any appearance of U.S. forces near its shores as a threat, meaning it will respond symmetrically. Chinese media outlets, including the Global Times, are already publishing articles with sharp headlines such as "Japan once again under the U.S. umbrella" and "Washington tries to turn Tokyo into a pawn of a new confrontation." Amid this rhetoric, the region is gradually becoming a theater of nerve games. The waters near the Senkaku and Miyako Islands are turning into a space where dozens of crossing encounters between Japanese, Chinese, and now American ships occur daily. According to satellite observations, at least 4 Chinese Type 052D destroyers and 1 large reconnaissance ship equipped for signal intelligence gathering have been spotted in the region over the past 3 days. Japan has increased patrols, deploying Mogami-class frigates and P-1 anti-submarine aircraft. Military experts from the Economist Intelligence Unit believe that if this trend continues, the likelihood of an unintended incident will increase dramatically. One mistake, one wrong course, could turn a diplomatic crisis into an actual confrontation. Meanwhile, concern is growing across Japanese social media. Users discuss nighttime aircraft flights, surges of activity at military bases, and troop movements. Some have even posted videos that allegedly show lights from Chinese ships near the Amami Islands. The government refuses to comment, but Tokyo's political circles are already saying that the region stands on the brink of a new era of confrontation. Reuters analyst Mari Koizumi notes that it may be between China and Japan where the next phase of global confrontation begins. Not a trade one, but a military political one. If these forecasts are correct, everything happening now in the waters of the East China Sea is merely a prelude. The United States and China are edging ever closer to direct confrontation, and Japan once again finds itself caught between two worlds, balancing between diplomacy and the threat of a new Cold War. And perhaps, right here between Okinawa and Shanghai, something is emerging that years from now analysts will call the starting point of a new global standoff. According to sources from the Washington Post, US intelligence has already intensified satellite monitoring of Chinese bases along the Fujian coast, recording unusual activity of supply and refueling vessels preparing to set sail. In Tokyo, rumors have surfaced that Beijing may deploy mobile dual-purpose radar platforms off Japan's coast, capable of functioning as both scientific and military stations. Several analysts from CSIS, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, assert that China is testing the limits of the new Japanese administration's patience, gauging how far it can go before triggering a counterstrike. Meanwhile, pressure on Trump is mounting in Washington. Republican congressmen are demanding that China's actions be officially recognized as a threat to regional stability, and that an additional Marine strike squadron be dispatched to Japan's shores. At the same time, Chinese social media have seen a sharp surge in military propaganda. Videos of patriotic patrols near Japanese islands are gaining millions of views, accompanied by slogans such as, "The sea belongs to the East." Experts believe China is preparing the informational groundwork for further escalation of its presence in the region, attempting to justify potential clashes as responses to provocation. And there are more and more signs indicating that it is here, in the quiet waters of the East China Sea, where a new phase of the global political chess game is beginning, with each side having already made its first move.
Alright, now on the last video,
On 11.
this is the tensions between. He's gonna talk about the tensions between China and the Philippines as well. So no matter where you go across the world, man, war is gonna break out everywhere, man.
7th August
And I'm gonna speed this up as well.
2025, a Chinese destroyer and a Coast Guard ship were chasing a small Philippine patrol vessel near a shallow reef, just 120 miles off the Philippine coast. In the chaos, the Chinese Coast Guard ship veered too close, missed the Philippine vessel, and smashed straight into its own destroyer. Several sailors were injured. This happened over a patch of reef called the Scarborough Shoal, claimed by both sides as their own. China accused the Philippines of a territorial intrusion. The Philippines fired back, accusing China of dangerous maneuvers and unlawful interference. And the thing is, incidents like this happen all the time. Just weeks earlier, in the same area, Chinese ships blasted Philippine boats with water cannons. China is doing all of this because they want to assert their own control over these reefs and force everyone else to accept them as Chinese territory. But it's backfiring. The Philippine public see these incidents that happen literally every month as Chinese bullying. The polls show that more than 85% of Filipinos now distrust China and see it as their country's biggest threat. So why does China keep pushing? Why fight so hard over a few remote reefs so far from their shores? Because they sit on one of the most strategic stretches of water in East Asia. The very waters China must dominate to control the South China Sea and surround Taiwan if it ever decides to. And right now, the Philippines stands directly in the way of China's ambitions. The Southeast Asian country sits on one of the most important choke points in the world, a narrow stretch of the South China Sea that could decide who controls Asia's trade routes and even the fate of Taiwan. Let's look at the map of East Asia. See that chain of islands from Japan down to the Philippines? That's what military strategists call the first island chain. It's a natural barrier that's trapping China's navy, preventing it from going out into the Pacific Ocean. Every passage out is guarded by US allies, Japan to the north, Taiwan in the middle, and the Philippines to the south. If China ever tries to take Taiwan, it needs to surround the island, cut it off from outside help, and stop US forces from entering the fight. But now, as it stands, if a conflict breaks out, China will not be able to prevent reinforcements from landing onto the island. And even worse, because it doesn't control these passages through the first island chain, US bases can easily deploy planes and shoot missiles in order to disrupt China transporting troops onto Taiwan. So it's really important for China to control the waters both north and south of Taiwan. And that's where the Philippines comes in. The Bashi Channel, a narrow passage between Taiwan and the Philippines, only 90 miles wide, is
So basically, just to recap on what he's saying, right? And to add on to to the previous video on China's encroachment to Japan, they're basically doing that the reason why China or Moab wants to gain control of the South China Sea is for one, is for one, gain control of the trade routes, because that's where most of the trade goes through to reach China. Second is so they can recapture Taiwan. When before the United States is able to intercept, and so they can basically counter strike America or Babylon's control of the archipelago chain, which mainly consists of Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines. Babylon uses it as a defense, to box in China if China were to ever retaliate or try to take Taiwan. That's basically why there's been so much activity going around in the China, and in the South China Sea, man. Which you best believe that will escalate soon, man. Man, and once World War III pops off, Babylon's troops, man, they will be stretched thin, man. America's not gonna be able to send enough troops, in the midst of Western Asia, the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the so-called Middle East, man, Europe, the South China Sea, Venezuela, man, and as well as fighting a civil war, man. Babylon, man, is on its way out, man. America's pretty much through, man. And but I'm gonna continue to let him finish, before I bring out the next precept.
The only deep water route China's submarines and warships can use to reach the Pacific Ocean. Whoever holds it decides whether Chinese ships can move freely or stay trapped inside the first island chain, unable to go beyond to surround Taiwan. Now look a little further south at the disputed reefs, Scarborough Shoal and others like it scattered across the South China Sea. They sit right along this crucial route, and Beijing's plan turned those reefs into military bases, a whole network of artificial islands that can monitor and control everything moving through the region. It's not a fantasy. In fact, they've already done it. Even further south, there's a cluster of reefs called the Spratly Islands that's claimed by 6 different countries. Well, China piled sand on the rocks there and turned them into massive military bases, complete with runways, hangars, radar systems, and anti-ship missiles. If they do the same at Scarborough Shoal, China could project power over the Bashi Channel and threaten any US or allied ships coming through during a Taiwan crisis. It will give Beijing the foothold it's been looking for, a way to strike from the south. But there's one big problem. The Philippines now hosts 9 US military bases, including 4 in northern Luzon, just 125 miles from Taiwan. Those bases have surveillance systems that can track every Chinese vessel and long-range missiles that could sink them before they ever get close. Every year, the US and the Philippines practice this very scenario in joint military exercises called the Balikatan, which literally means shoulder to shoulder. In 2025, more than 14,000 troops took part in the live-fire exercises, sinking mock enemy ships that represented Chinese ones. These drills are a symbol of the worsening relationship between China and the Philippines. But this isn't just about military power, it's also about survival. For China, the South China Sea is its lifeline, carrying 80% of imported oil and 40% of trade. If those sea lanes were ever blocked, even for a bit, China's economy could grind to a halt. And beneath those same waters lie enormous untapped reserves, 190 trillion cubic feet of gas and 11 billion barrels of oil. Meanwhile, the Philippines faces its own energy crisis. Its main natural gas source, the Malampaya field, is running dry by 2027. But just off its coast lies a site believed to hold massive reserves that could replace the Malampaya field. It's called the Reed Bank. The problem? Every time the Philippines tries to send ships there, Chinese Coast Guard vessels show up to block them, forcing them to retreat. China insists that it's Chinese territory. Both nations need those resources. That's why neither can back down. But the hostility between China and the Philippines wasn't always this bad. In fact, only a few years ago, the Philippines was moving closer to China and away from the United States. That shift began with one man, Rodrigo Duterte. Elected president in 2016 on a wave of anger over crime, corruption, and inequality, Duterte saw himself as a tough outsider, a leader who wouldn't be lectured by anyone, not even the US. This attitude shaped what he called an independent foreign policy policy, which basically meant dumb America and cozy up to China. He argued that the Philippines hadn't gained much from decades of relying on the US, and China, it was offering something new, money and infrastructure. And unlike the Americans, the Chinese didn't criticize his government or question his human rights record, which turned out to be very questionable. That same year, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague made a historic ruling. It said China's sweeping claim over almost the entire South China Sea, including those reefs we talked about earlier, has no legal basis under international law. In other words, those waters and the reefs that lie on it, they all belong to the Philippines. But instead of enforcing this ruling, Duterte called it just a piece of paper. He didn't want confrontation with China, he wanted cooperation. Beijing couldn't have been happier. In return, it promised $30.5 billion in loans and investments, railways, bridges, energy projects, all meant to transform the Philippines economy. For Beijing, this was a huge win. A key US ally breaking away, weakening the southern link of the first island chain. But the honeymoon didn't last. Out of the $30.5 billion China pledged, only $700 million had been delivered by 2022, less than 3%. The railway projects stalled. The bridges delayed. The energy deals stuck in negotiations. And oh yeah, at sea, Chinese Coast Guard ships were still ramming Filipino fishermen near the disputed reefs. It started looking like a one-sided friendship. China gained influence while the Philippines got next to nothing. Public anger grew fast. By the end of Duterte's term in 2022, 58% of Filipinos said they distrusted China. So, in the year's election, voters went the other way. They chose a new leader, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., son of the country's longest-serving president, Ferdinand Marcos, who was one of America's closest allies during the Cold War. Following in his father's footsteps, Bongbong Marcos did a 180 on Duterte's pro-China foreign policy.
Alright, so I'm just gonna stop the video right there. Alright, but basically to expound on what Mr. Terrence Chung is saying, before, when Duterte was in power, they basically wanted to steer away, from Babylon, right? Because of course, they were basically getting the short end of the deal. Babylon hasn't really been helping the Philippines much, and of course, Babylon's been exploiting Philippines natural resources for themselves, right? Right, while gaining next to nothing in return, which is why they wanted to side with China, right? And China was able to provide some money. However, the reason why that deal fell through, and actually look this up on Google. So I'm gonna go right here, right? So I basically asked Google why didn't China provide the money that that it promised to the Philippines, right? And the answer was, China has not fully provided promised money to the Philippines due to a combination of factors, including political tensions, stalled infrastructure projects, and concerns over governance and sovereignty. The significant gap between pledged and disturbed funds is largely attributed to these issues, which have led delays and withdrawals from projects like those under the Belt and Road Initiative, which is what China's been doing, with other countries in the world, such as in Africa, right? So key reasons for the unfulfilled funding, political and territorial disputes, ongoing tensions in the South China Sea have strained relations and undermined trust between the two countries. Stalled projects, many promised infrastructure projects, particularly large railway ventures, have been delayed or canceled due to a variety of concerns, including governance standards, environmental impacts, sovereignty issues raised by the Philippines, Filipino resistance, opposition to Filipino society, civil society, political parties pushed back against Chinese-backed projects. Philippine bureaucracy, the country's complex bureaucracy system has been cited as reason for project delays, and see this main talking point right here. Because China basically tried to to offer the Belt and Road Initiative to Italy, but that didn't go through as well. And you best believe Esau, man, played a big role in in the deal, not working out, but between these countries and China with the Belt and Road Initiative, because Esau, man, he wants to gain control of these countries, right? Right, and namely the Philippines, because the Philippines is again part of that is a strategic location, man. man, going back to to World War II, with island hopping, right, that whole archipelago, from Japan, Taiwan to the Philippines, man, with military bases planted there, Esau can basically, watch, watch and and monitor China. Not being too far from from its shores, right? And this is me speaking as a man. These are my predictions. As to as to why these programs weren't didn't come into full fruition and into the Philippines, man. And again, man, it could also be be influenced from Esau, because a lot of people in the Philippines, man, they're kind of short sighted, man. They don't they don't really see projects to the full, but that's besides the point, man. The point is Moab, man. He was unable to get to gain control of certain key islands, within the South China Sea. To go against what's it called, to basically go against Babylon's military bases, that are planned along those archipelagos, to further project their power, right? And that's basically why tensions they're about to rise, man. Yeah, and again, man, you best believe, man, it's it that that's gonna lead to full on war, man. Between China and those archipelago countries, man, Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, and of course Babylon's gonna be sprinkled there, Babylon's also gonna be sprinkled in Europe and the so-called Middle East too. Western Asia, man. They had a go against Iran, India, Russia, man. And you best believe Chinese troops are also gonna be there as well, man. So it's so it's gonna be all out of hell, man. But breaking loose everywhere. Right. That being said, now let me go to the next precept. Right. This is the book of Joel, chapter 3. Starting at verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles: prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near. Let them come up. Beat your plowshares into swords, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. As Yeah, and that's these other smaller nations, right? Philippines, Japan, man. Then Taiwan, man. They're arming themselves up for war, man. They're asking Esau for help, but ultimately, man, well, all these countries are gonna lose, but you best believe, man. When war comes, Esau ain't gonna really do much, man. Once these countries start going on the assault. Uh, Assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither, because the mighty ones to come down, O Lord Yahweh Bashim Yahushai. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, Yahweh Shaphat, meaning Yahweh's judgment. For there I will sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle of the harvest is put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for the wickedness is great. Multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. And yeah, man, you best believe that. That time's coming soon, man. So Jake, if Jake, man, you Israelite man and woman, man. For those of you that are listening, tuning in, man. Repent, man. Get yourself right with the Lord now, before them gates of mercy close. Because you best believe, man. It's about to get bad everywhere, not just Babylon the Great. All right. So all right, and that takes me to the and I want to jump to to the book of Isaiah. chapter 46. And we're starting verse 10. You know, the whole chapter is called Babylon's idols and the true God. So this chapter, right, is basically talking about ancient Babylon the Great, and the Medo Persians, right, which is modern day Iran, invading and becoming the next empire and rulership. However, though, you can apply this today, because the Lord the Lord is basically using the same playbook, man. As the scripture says, Yahweh Bashim Yahshai, man. The Lord, He requires things that come to pass, right, and that's why you see history, basically repeat itself, is because the Lord is basically using the same playbook again, but this time He's using it on a much wider scale, right? Isaiah 46, starting at verse 10, declaring the end from the beginning, from the ancient times, the things that are not yet done, saying, my counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Calling a ravenous bird from the east, the man that executeth my counsel from a far country. Yeah, I have spoken it. I will also bring it to pass, and I have purposed it. I will also do it, right? That ravenous bird, right? At that time it was referring to Medo Persia, which is modern day Iran. But now today, you can still refer. It is also still referred to Iran, but you could also lump, you can also lump, in India and China there, because they're also going to be joined into the Valley of Jehoshaphat, and also, and since I mentioned this, right, let's look up. We're gonna look up. Did Rome fall because their troops were spread too thin? All right, yes. The Roman troops being spread too thin was a significant factor in the empire's fall, as their vast size made it difficult to defend borders, respond to threats, and maintain control. This overextension weakened the military, leading to a decline in border security, and a greater reliance on less loyal troops, and an inability to effectively manage a sprawling and expansive territory. All of which combined with other issues like internal instability and economic problems, weakened defenses. A larger empire required a larger military to secure its vast borders, but the troops were stretched across hundreds of miles. This made it harder to respond to attacks and local rebellions. Slower reaction times, vast distances involvement, slower troop movements and communications, making the empire slow to react to barbarian raids and invasions. Economic strain, the cost of maintaining a large army and defending extensive frontiers was immense. The economy and contribution issues like inflation and tax problem, and internal fragmentation, overstretched military structure contributed to the decentralization of power. Regional armies began to develop local loyalties rather than the loyalty to the empire, and the military's focus shifted from defending the empire to internal power struggles and interests of their own regions. Vulnerability to attack. Overextension left Rome vulnerable when external pressure mounted, such as migration of various peoples pushed by other groups. The already stretched legions were unable to hold the line effectively, and you best believe that this is going to play out again, man. But like I said, on a much larger scale, right? All right, as you see, man, Babylon, man, Babylon the Great, America, their troops are going to be spread, all across Europe, the Middle East, all throughout Western Asia, and they're also going to be in the Pacific theater as well. Well, trying to fight China off the coast of the archipelagos in the South China Sea, man, while you have some troops, fighting off a civil war that's about to take place in Babylon, and not to mention Venezuela and South America, man, and possibly the Canadian border too, because you can have some Russian and Chinese troops stationed there as well. So Babylon, man, it's pretty much gonna fall the exact same way ancient Rome fall, but this time, man, and the Lord's gonna send them ICBM nuclear missiles once they implement that micro CIP, right? Right, and looking at slow reaction times, right, is because of that communication, right, and why I'm thinking, right, is they 144, man, call Allah Yahweh Bashim Yahshai, man, but but and this is a speculation, right, I feel they Slaki, like what I'm thinking is they well, one of their reasons for the implementation, aside from to get the blessing back in and them trying to trying to micro see of the elect is so their troops can basically communicate with each other in real time, with that neural link implanted into their brains, right? So they basically have what's it called, so they can basically have this hive mind where where the troops can attack with precision, right? And basically once these other nations they get a whiff of that, or they see what the what Esau's trying to do, man. Once they see the destruction that's basically gonna cause to their own countries, man. That's what these other nations, man, China, Russia, India, Iran, any country that basically holds ICBM nuclear missiles. That's when they're gonna say, fuck you, America. They gonna send them nukes, man, and and destroy America, and when that happens, man, that's when your house shines, that the fathership's gonna appear, and beam up the elect, man. So we almost there, brothers, man. You brothers, you few sisters, we almost there, man. Again, that's not me prophesying. That's just speculation of what I think is going to happen. Between the implementation of the implementation of the mark and the missiles, right? And why the missiles are going to be sent. But we're just going to see how that's going to play out during the time of Jacob's trouble, right? Right. Right. Second Ezra chapter 16 verse 16. Like as an arrow that which is shot of a mighty archer returneth not backward, even so the plagues that shall be sent upon the earth shall not return again. And that's what you see right now, man. Expect things to get worse and worse. There's Matthew 24 verse 6. And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet, right? Right. So a few major prophecies are going to happen. Famine of the word, man. The men of the Lord getting persecuted, man. Getting framed. You best believe Esau's going to use his AI, and other things that to frame the men of the Lord. Call them DTs. Or whatever, and you're gonna see someone else, getting executed, and beheaded, man, pertaining to the Book of Revelation. So we in those times, man. And and ultimately, man, the end for Babylon, man, is going to be nuclear destruction, right? Right, Revelation chapter 18 verse 10. Standing afar off for her torment for her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come. Right, and the merchants shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth her merchandise anymore. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and all fine wood and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and odors, and ointments, and frankincense, and wine, and oil, and fine flour, and wheat, and beasts, and sheep, and horses, and chariots, and slaves, and souls of men. Right. Right. Which that's gonna be the implementation of that charagma, that mark, that micro C hit, man. So it's pretty much over for Babylon the Great. Right. It's America's fate is sealed, man. Man, and once those troops get sent, man, once all hell breaks loose, man, that's pretty much it, man. And we're already we're already seeing the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble, man. And so expect things to get worse from here on out, man. Brothers, sisters, man, stay prayed up. And of course I'm speaking for myself too. And just hope and pray, man, that Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, rescue us from these times, right? And hope that some of us, man, we can receive the spiritual powers from on high on this side, right? Book of Isaiah, chapter 40, verse 31. But they that wait on the Lord Yahweh Bashim Al Shai shall renew their strength. They shall mount up as wings as eagles, and shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint, right? The Lord is going to imbue some of us, men, on this side with spiritual powers, but ultimately, man, the elect, once we get that new spiritual bodies, man, we're going to be as gods, man. As the scripture says, man, you're gods. And actually, let me get that scripture since I brought it out. Ye are gods. Psalm chapter 82, verse 6. I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, right? Right, and that time's coming real soon, man. Once Yahweh Shai comes, man, and beat up his elect, man. Lord willing, man. We be part of that number. Right. Once the elect get beamed up, we get the new spiritual bodies. The lost will be within our inward parts. We're never going to sin again, and which means we never going to die. We're going to be immortals, and we get to enforce the will of the Lord on earth as it is in heaven, man. As it says in Yahweh Bashim Yahushai's prayer, man. And these other nations, they get ultimately destroyed, defeated, man. We're going to put their elites into slavery, and basically, man, that's when the kingdom of heaven is going to be set up, man. So with that, man, we're going to end off the lesson right there. Hope this lesson has been edifying, to you, Akim, and you feel Akwath. And with that, I like to say, Call Halayim La, Abanawa, Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Ruka Kadash. Double honors and respect to our apostles and elders, a great millstone, who will and taught us his truth. I would also like to say peace and salutations to the Lord's elect, the hopeful elect in 1/3, his brother Salah. And with that, I like to say Shalom.